What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy. So we have Russian President Vladimir Putin gives his first interview since ever with Western media since the war has began. And it's done by Tucker Carlson. Okay. And you also have to remember here that this is coming from Vladimir Putin's point of view. He's going to tell you everything that he wants to tell you, the Russian point of view. Okay. You also got to remember here that Tucker Carlson has been criticized by a lot of Americans for being pro-Russian and given a pro-Russian point of view, and uh you know this is a lot of people have criticized him for this. This is, you also have to remember here, Vladimir Putin even took this interview from him because of his stance. Vladimir Putin knows this, that he's almost friendly to his stance. Okay, if he was anti-Putin, Putin wouldn't even have taken the interview. Okay, it's just the reality of things. I know that there's going to people that maybe disagree with me, but this is just the reality of things. Okay, if you have the blinders on, this is just the reality of things. Okay, remember, if you've been watching me for a long time, I just tell the truth. I'm not left, right, center. I'm just I just tell the things the way they are. Okay, and so they had this big long interview. Some people think it was live. It wasn't live. It was actually recorded on Tuesday. Okay, and Tucker Carlson made it out of there with his life. And Tucker Carlson got criticized for even giving this interview, for even doing this interview with Vladimir Putin. I don't criticize him for doing this interview. I actually think it's a good thing to do this interview with Vladimir Putin. But I think that a lot of people, when they hear something like this, they get caught up a little bit too much in the propaganda. It's like interviewing somebody like Bin Laden or something, and then they listen to Bin Laden, or they listen to China's president, or maybe Iran's president, or Kim Jong Un, or even if you like went back to Hitler, and you if you listen to Hitler's days. And I'm not comparing anybody, any of these specific people, right? But if you went back and listened to Hitler during World War II, if you gave an interview to Hitler and you listen to him, he's going to explain to you why everything he's doing during World War II is right, and why them invading other countries is the right thing to do, and why they have to do this, okay? And why them invading other countries and doing, the Holocaust and everything that they had to do, and with, Putin or Hitler explaining why they have to do these things in their words, they could convince you of it. Okay, and that's where people kind of get caught up if they listen to these interviews. And this is where kind of some people get a little bit misconstrued, so to say. So that's where you got to kind of take these interviews with a grain of salt. You know, for example, if you listen to Biden, or if you listen to Trump, or if you listen to any president of any country, they're going to tell you their point of view and why they think they are right in any political situation. It's just the reality of things, okay? But it's a little bit different when one country is invading another country and trying to take over that country, and they don't want to be taken over. And they're killing tens of thousands, or in this case, hundreds of thousands of people. And honestly, the most um, one of the most recent times to compare that to is World War II with Hitler, where they went in and they just invaded other countries and just took them over. And when you look at Hitler or Putin, and they went in and invaded other countries. You look at Crimea, you look at Ukraine, and Hitler, or I'm sorry, Putin has. I get those two interchanged a lot because it's if you look at history, you see similarities. Putin has actually leaked plans from Belarus and from Russia of them wanting to, or actually having plans to take over other countries, most notably Moldova. They have actually leaked battle plans by accident of them attacking Moldova after Ukraine. Of course, we know they want to take over Belarus as well. And one thing they mentioned in the interview, Putin tells Tucker Carlson Russia has no interest in attacking Poland or Latvia. Of course, that sounds good. Maybe a sigh of relief for a lot of people. But the thing is that you never quite know what is really on Putin's mind because honestly, sometimes he uses attacks for diversions, and you can't trust Putin because I'll go back to this article that I brought up here right before, and this is back from 2022 here. Putin attacked Ukraine after insisting for months, that there was no plan to do so. Now he says there's no plan to take over Ukraine. Okay? But the reality here is that for months and months and months and months, he said there was no plan for them to attack Ukraine, and they did. So when he says something like that there's no plan to attack Poland or Latvia or the Baltic states, it his word really means nothing because they've said so many times that they weren't going to attack Ukraine, and they did. So it literally just up until days beforehand. So you can't take his word at all. And there's a lot of headlines like this from Business Insider. Putin's Tucker Carlson interview seems timed to inflict maximum damage on U.S. support for Ukraine, as both the Senate and the House are considering to pass more support, aid, and funds for Ukraine and Israel. What a timing. Big question there. As Putin tells Tucker Carlson, the U.S. needs to stop supplying weapons to Ukraine. Of course, he says that. Also, it's very, very interesting to me how the now major war in the Middle East has all of a sudden started, taking the eye off Ukraine with Iran, one of Russia's major allies. My, how that is very, very good for Russia. I found it interesting here that Putin argued that Ukraine, not Russia, started the war in 2014 when Russia illegally annexed the Crimean Peninsula, when they took over Crimea without a fight, because, well, Crimea couldn't possibly fight back against Russia, by, quote, preparing for military action. When Russia just took over Crimea, the other country, Russia just took them over. Russia says that Ukraine started the war then because they didn't let Russia take over Crimea. Well, actually, they did, but they said because they actually thought about preparing military action against Russia. This is how the mind of Vladimir Putin thinks. and added, quote, "Our goal is to stop this war," Putin says. He had previously referred to it only as a special military operation. And Putin has denied responsibility for starting the war. Putin also was asked if Russia has achieved its aims or its goals in Ukraine, and Putin said it has not yet done so, naming one of Russia's goals is to prohibit, quote, "all kind of neo-Nazi movements," even though we've gone over here that the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is Jewish and his ancestors were in the Holocaust. And Ukraine is in a process he calls denazification of Ukraine, a claim debunked as, quote, "factually wrong, morally repugnant, and deeply offensive," according to a group of scholars from more than a dozen Western countries. And remember here that Putin is actually wanted by dozens and dozens of countries from the International Criminal Court as, and you can see it right here, there's actually been multiple news outlets and Russia has actually reported this. Moscow says that they have taken 700,000 children from Ukraine. They have just taken them from their families and taken them to Russia. More than 700,000 Ukrainian children have been taken to Russia, taken away from their families, and just stolen. Imagine you are one of these children, or one of these children was yours, and a Russian army person just comes and takes your child. They take them to Russia to never be seen again. By the way, Russia calls them re-education camps. And those children, almost all of them, will never see their families again in Ukraine. Yeah. So just remember this about Russia and Vladimir Putin, not to mention the countless lives that have been lost because Putin has decided to invade Ukraine. And remember, he thinks that they didn't start the war and they're not going to be ending the war anytime soon. And this is the problem. And remember, if you let them win the war, remember what's going to happen next. They're just going to continue to do this type of stuff and also send the message to countries like Iran, China, North Korea, that the world will allow this stuff. That even if it's a hard fought war, that eventually countries like this will be allowed to do this stuff and come out winners. They'll be allowed to do it because you better believe that China's watching to see if they're going to be allowed to take over Taiwan, if Iran is allowed to do this stuff in the Middle East, and if North Korea can take over South Korea and vice versa, right? So you just got to remember here that the world is watching this stuff. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here on everything going on a daily basis. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any new videos that come out here on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, for the next few days or so, I'll probably be doing every other day for some videos, so don't be alarmed. Just going to be kind of taking a few days off here, so keep that in mind. Click here to watch my newest video next. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.